Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this video is intended to be a comment response to Latijid Golana on YouTube, who posted a comment on my previous video reacting to the news of a 9-year-old girl who accidentally shot and killed her shooting instructor on a gun range in Arizona. Essentially, I wanted to go ahead and respond in kind to Latijid Golana, who took some issue with some of the things that I said in my video. Since I can't post a comment response anymore on YouTube, I figured I'd do it as a video response. So in any case, Golana took some issues with some of the things I said about the Texas carry and conceal laws and everything like that, to which he said, as far as Texas relates, many carry concealed and have saved more lives because of it than not. Sorry, dude, you're wrong on all counts. Well, I actually took some time to look up some of the information that I've been reading over the years. I found a 2013 blog post on MediaMatters.org in relation to the NRA's media misinformation attempts over the years. Quote, the research contained within the John Lott book, More Guns, Less Crime, that linked concealed carry to lower crime rates is, quote, without credible statistical support, unquote, according to an analysis published in the Stanford Law Review by Ian Ayers and John J. Donahue III. Ayers and Donahue found that correcting coding errors in Lott's More Guns, Less Crime hypothesis reversed the results of his claims. And goes on to say, Ayers, Donahue, and others have found that permissive laws concerning the carrying of guns in public are actually linked to an increase in aggravated assaults rather than a reduction in crime. One such study that compared the United States to other high-income nations found that the U.S. had a firearm homicide rate that was 19.5 times higher than the average of 22 other countries studied. Mother Jones, an independent news organization, accurately linked to research in peer-reviewed journals demonstrating that owning a gun increases the risks of homicide, suicide, and gun-related accidents within the home. An article also cited research by A.L. Kellerman that examined firearm incidents where the gun used was known to be stored in the home. That research found a gun in the home was used in assaults or murders, suicides, and accidents more frequently than justifiable homicides, according to the publication Private Guns Public Health, page 80. According to Harvard Injury Control Research Center Director David Hemingway, a, quote, study of all gunshot injuries occurring in a residence in the Galveston, Texas area over a 3-year period found that only 2 incidents were related to residential burglary or robbery. In one instance, a homeowner was shot and killed by a burglar. In another, the homeowner shot the burglar. During the same interval, guns in the home were involved in the death and injury of more than 100 residents, family members, friends, or acquaintances. According to a further survey and research study by Hemingway, case control studies, ecological time series, and cross-sectional studies indicate that in homes, cities, states, and regions in the U.S. where there are more guns, both men and women are at higher risk for homicide, particularly firearm homicide. So you can kind of see where I'm coming from, but here's where actually the plot, as they say, thickens. Even the Texas Firearms Coalition's website, decidedly a pro-concealed carry website, has to admit on their site, quote, some will argue that citizens openly carrying handguns will reduce crime in Texas. Unfortunately, there is no empirical evidence to support this claim. So right there, I'm basically telling you, Latijid Golana, that your statement is specious at best, has no basis for comparison or provability, essentially. And but because I have always been relatively objective, even this I pass on to the world-weary listener. You have to really do the digging yourself, and you really have to find out for yourself, and you got to go where your passions lie. And while we're talking about statements with little to no basis, I want to also respond to Latijid Golana's claim regarding Ted Nugent, as he was somebody I brought up in my video. About Ted, he says I am completely wrong, and that all he really does is, quote, support the Second Amendment because the government should not have more power than we the people. There is a sentiment that I wholeheartedly agree with, that the government gets away with more than their fair share, and we the little people, so to speak, are definitely suffering more because of it. However, I do take concern and issue with the idea of saying that's all Ted Nugent is about. I've done some digging on him as well and tried to find some corresponding political aspects fact, since my, bringing him up had nothing to do with politics at all whatsoever, I was just basically calling him a fanatic. But if we want to get into the political argument side of things, I want to point out, first of all, that Ted Nugent, your, Second Amendment gun-toting hero, has been brought up on 11 charges of poaching by the Outdoor Channel, which I believe he had to plead no contest on. Here's a guy who's affiliated with the NRA, which, to my estimation at least, are a bunch of gun-toting fanatics and crazies, and essentially the reason I say this from an article taken from PoliticusUSA.com, where they have basically purported an individual who adheres to a political viewpoint which drives them to seek a return to a previous state in a society is reactionary, and it is natural for a person who is divorced from the reality of the present to do so. This falls right in line with some quotes I found on the same site by Nugent himself. Here is a guy who has said of Barack Obama, the Barack Obama gang is actually attempting to re-implement the tyranny of King George that we escaped from in 1776, and if you want another Concord Bridge, I've got some buddies. As well as, about Obama, he is an evil, dangerous man who hates America and hates freedom, and we need to fix it as soon as possible. This guy claims that Obama only pretended to honor the 58,000 American heroes who died fighting communism at the Vietnam Memorial Wall, yet himself reportedly defecated and urinated himself, feigned insanity when confronted with the draft board, saying later, quote, that he did not want to get his ass blown off in Vietnam, as his reasoning for such. With fanatical mouthpiece reactionary psychosis like this, if you think any such a man is a hero or potential savior against what we might refer to as Lord Government these days, you just wait and see what happens if he or any of his ilk seize power. Then I want you to come back and I want you to tell me how equal things are really going to be. But I'm going to tell you right now, you won't be able to, because it'll be just as bad, if not worse, if fanatics like this come into power, become the leaders of whatever government that they, so choose to dismantle at this point. Indeed, we'll still have the same old tyrannous government. We're just going to have a bunch of different cronies, and control of it is my personal estimation of people like Ted Nugent and anyone who would actually support him by claiming that all he's trying to do is basically, support the Second Amendment and all that kind of brouhaha. Frankly, Litigigalana, I have to take issue with everything you said, and I have to say that you are definitely unestimably wrong on whatever counts you're trying to purport I am, at least from a certain point of view. Everything's down to a certain point of view, and no offense is meant in my reaction to your post, except to say that I expect a little more footwork and thought being put into posts, not rhetoric, not this is what I've heard, not this is what I believe. I actually want people to have a conversation and think about what is going on, not only the immediate situation as it stands in the moment right here and now, but also the ripples on the water out from which stretch repercussions all throughout our future and everything like that. I think there's a lot of thought to be put into this entirety of gun ownership and concealed weapon carrying and putting guns into the hands of children. That is the basis for what I was even talking about. Putting guns in the hands of children, I believe, is conceptually and in action entirely wrong. Something that should not be done, should not be an option. As somebody else posted on that video, we're living in a country where you have to be 16 before you can get a learner's permit. You're going to be 18 before you can, buy cigarettes and stuff like that, 21 before you can drink alcohol, and yet we're putting guns in the hands of 8-year-olds. That is a problem one way or the other. And touching base on the entire, murders in the home and accidental shootings, suicide is another big topic, especially, relating to the loss of Robin Williams. There has been a statistical increase in men from, lower middle age to above taking their own lives, and time again you'll find that guns in the house, in the homestead, are, part of that process. So I don't want to hear people telling me that concealed weapons and weapons of any kind, these things can be regulated and crimes are going to decrease and all this kind of stuff. I think it's absolutely specious and borderline madness to accept any such statistical information, whereas most of those things are disproven if you do the research for yourself objectively. Don't stand on either side of the aisle. You'll find most of the people who are pro this aspect of more guns decreasing crime are the ones who are owners of guns and want to be able to have that right and everything like that. I'm not saying that's the case with Letitia Golana here. Don't know the man, but I basically have to call it the way I see it. And where I'm being called out wrong, I have to say there's statistical proof and published proof that shows otherwise. And if anybody else wants to contribute in the comments down below with their thoughts, opinions, or statistical information, websites, such like that, feel free to do so at your leisure. And otherwise, I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.